So what we're going to do now is we'll actually move on to the container management. So as I said, there's two sides. There's the tracking profiles, and then there's the containers themselves. Now, for some customers, if it's one PO per container, then you can set up a container, and there's benefits to that. But actually, you can just do the tracking profiles on the PO, and I'll show you that in a moment. But for customers where you mix and match purchase orders, so different lines on the PO to a container, then the container management really comes in beneficial to manage that. So the first side of this is going to be setting up your container sizes. So what we've got here is I've just got a 20-foot, but again, you'll set those up, your maximum volume and payload. You'll also then create your tracking profiles. So against a PO, here's one I've got. So it's a 27-day lead time. Could just be working days. I've said it's not. It takes a day for them to process, 5 days to manufacture. It's on the sea for 15, etc., etc. For my container, I've got a couple of different profiles, and I've said some of these are working days only. So again, 5 days to load the container. It's on the sea, so it's a 25-day lead time. So you set all this up in the background. The other bit just to note is this POP status. So working closely with a client of ours who uses a lot of the Sicon add-ons, they work in the agricultural sector, so they buy in from the Far East. What they wanted was, it's great. We can give visibility of the future stock movement screen on the sales order if you've got the stock management piece, and again, I'll show you that shortly. But the salesperson can say, oh, yeah, I can see there's a purchase order due in, next Wednesday. But it's not until it's actually on the sea that they will start to quote that to the customer, because there's so many variables can go wrong. So we work with them and we created what we call this POP status. So you create this in the background, and depending on whether it's just been created, whether it's been flagged as being confirmed, you can then see a bit of color coding. You might have seen that already in the future sales stock movements. So they can just see the ones that are green, they're okay to say to the customer, yep, that's likely to come in, and then use the pre-allocation piece, which we'll come on to just ring fence that stock. So how does all of this work? So first things first, from the weights and measures, if we come into the stock control, and if I filter by my good old espresso machines, standard Sage stock item, a couple of little tweaks from us, and one of those little tweaks will be the Sicon tab here. And you'll have distribution. I'm talking about the bit down here at the moment. So you can set up lengths, which will work out the volume. You can enter a weight. Now, it's not an exact science because it's not going to look at how it's packed. It is based on the unit of measure, so the individual, but it's just going to give you a guide as you load that container as to have you exceeded the weight. So that's the first part. You can use it, you don't have to. Just whilst I'm in here, if you've got the stock management, we can do superseded and discontinued, so that's what I'll refer to later. And as I mentioned to you, that you can override the safety margin for the future sales. That's where you would do that. So if we first go into a purchase order, again, the slight difference, let's pick this one here. If we go in and amend, you'll have a tracking dates tab just here. So you create your purchase order, and then you would come into it. So from material planning, if perhaps that's where you're going to do it, you pick your China tracking profile. So the date that we're going to place that, and now we've got, so if I change that and say, okay, we're going to place the order 19th of May, and we just start to tab through, it's going to be the 15th of June. So if I update the PO lines, that's going to update all of the lines on the PO to the 15th of June. If I run MRP, again, we're going to see any warnings. The idea with this is we can record the vessel and the forwarder, of course, but we can say, okay, actually, they were delayed. They're not going to be able to process that till tomorrow. So as we tab through, we've now got the provisional date, but then we've got what the new date's going to be. And again, we can update the lines. We can confirm the stages, and we can record any notes or problems on there. So again, it's just a way of being able to report back as well. This expected time, that was added in for a client who they, because of security, because it's frozen goods, they need to book slots for the deliveries. So they could then just record the expected time, and the business partner wrote them a report. It could be a dashboard, just so the security know what the expected times are for the deliveries, so they can get them signed in. So that's it on a PO basis. But I mentioned containers, so we'll have a look now at the containers bit. This is just our audit log saying you've made a tweak. Do you want to let us know why? So if I come back into Container Manager and I look at my list, there's a few that I prepared earlier, so we'll pick this one here, and if I just amend the container, what we've got at the top there, so we've got our internal number, it's just going to be sequential. You can actually record the actual container number when you recognize it, or sort of when you know it. We've got the provisional delivery date, and if I've got weights on there, you start to see the volume and the measurements, and as I said, it will then highlight those where it looks like they're going to be over. On the right-hand side, it's looking at weight, but more and more people want to know, for insurance purposes, what's the value of the items on there. So again, using the costing aspects held within Sage, it's going to give you the total value for insurance purposes. You can then assign your tracking profile. Already it's telling me the delivery date is not going to be met, so I can then update all the PO lines. But because these are individual, they're not all from the same PO, this is the benefit. Without this, you'd have to go in, find the PO, go down to the lines, and of course, you know, it's admin. All you're going to do is just update all of these. And to add lines in, you're just going to pick, so we've got for Blackburn's, whatever POs they've got, and you can then just pick the lines per supplier and just add them in, and it just simply adds them into the list. You've also got attachments here where you could store any documentation, so storing it against the container, again, keeping it all central. You've got your vessel and forwarder, and if we process that as well. And then things like analysis codes for reporting purposes. So you can load your containers, but as I said, by updating the date, if there are any impacts, that's updating the PO and really complements material planning then to take all that into consideration and give you any warnings of what that's going to impact.